Howdy and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ben. I am an exercise scientist. I used to compete for Team USA, and I have a master's degree in exercise science and coaching education. We are doing a follow-up with our client, Mr. Tyas, who has been working with us for a couple months now.
Hi, I'm Tyas. I'm a male model, bodybuilder,
These are facts.
doctor, lawyer, and philanthropist.
Man, you sound like Johnny Sins.
I just figured you had a really good intro, and I wanted to compete.
You have a really nice intro. You're also the owner of this place, and so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you say something that pisses me off, I just turn your mic off.
Yeah, or this episode maybe never ever exists.
Boom. That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that option.
So we've been working together for a little while now.
Yes.
What were, I guess, the initial expectations, and then where are we at today?
So that's a good question. So my expectations. So I've worked out by myself before. I worked out with you for a long time, but I never had a structured plan or anything like that. And I was just mimicking the movements that I saw other people do. So knowing your background, my thought process was that I was going to get a master course on technique. And that was really one of the primary things I was hoping for. I'm always concerned about injuring myself because I'm past the 40-year-old mark where, like, when you're 18, everything's like, it healed. And now I don't heal. And then so I was interested in that. Outside of that, I didn't really have any major expectations. As far as what I've experienced, I'm very happy with the technique stuff. I'm not sure that is possible without a coach, because I've watched a million people do squats, and I've watched a million like all of those things I've seen over and over again. And there's two problems with it. One is there's things that they're doing that you can't see. What you introduced first day, you're like, okay, you're squatting, focus on your knees going outward. Like just what you're focusing on is a big factor. And then the second thing is that you can't really see yourself as the world can see you. Like I've filmed myself working out and stuff, and it looks all right-ish. But you would see something, you'd be like, okay, actually focus on like bench. Like you're activating, lats?
Lats.
Activating your lats. And like, you can't see that. I can't see that. But it changes everything. And the fact that like my back my back was sore after bench pressing, didn't make any sense to me because I'm like, I'm pushing, everything's up. This is all push. Why would my back feel activated in this? That doesn't make any sense. Because I would assume that rows would do the back. So anyways, the focus on the technique, and then we had one session where I noticed that my squat could have two different versions. And that was like and the answer was neither's right. You get to pick. And that was like a, oh my gosh moment. Like it was such a huge paradigm shift in it where I was just like, okay, these are both okay. These both work. They both have advantages and disadvantages. And you actually get to choose, you get to decide based off of how you're feeling that day, how much weight, all that stuff was fascinating. So I've been really, really satisfied with that. And then, the aggressive masculine version of me has also noticed that the quantity of plates has increased as we've gone along. And while I don't care at all about the small plates, every time when it's another big plate, that feels great.
It does feel good.
Yeah,
it does feel good. That's a pretty cool rundown. That one day of squatting, the day that it clicked, I think is a hope that I have for everybody to get like, oh shit, like there's options here. And then you have to earn the right to have options. But I think at this point you've earned the right to have those options. And then you're also intuitive enough, or you've made this connection between, okay, if I hinge versus if I break at the knees first, like this happens, these are the effects. I like this one more than I like this one. You can make that decision in the moment. From moment to moment is, I think, also really, really cool. So like long term, I really want to get good at a clean. Well, maybe I break with my knees first because now I want to have a little bit more quad activation, maybe a little more upright. It transfers over really, really nicely. If I just want to get really, really strong at squat, I can have a little bit more hinge, and I'm really using a lot of my glutes and my hamstrings, along with my quads. But like I can have almost less bar movement because my bar is lower, and so I'm doing less work because work equals force times distance. So like it's marginal, it's small, but whenever we're starting to lift more and more weight, those things definitely matter.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch the progression, and it's much faster than I thought it would be. So for example, like one of the early first days, first week, whatever, you had me like hang from a bar, and I could hang for like 15 seconds. And it was not very long before that was like 45 seconds and a minute. Like it was not very long at all, but it was like, you're like, this is important. You actually really need to work on this. This is, your grip strength matters. And then similarly, like we were playing with squats and all this, and you're like, okay, this is really, you're relying on the front of your leg a lot more than the back of your leg. We're going to start working on the back of your leg. It's going to change your balance. It's going to change all these things. And it's surprising how fast those things come into effect and actually play a part in the game. Much earlier than I thought they would. Much like I'd be like, oh, I've got to train that. That's going to be a year or whatever. It's like, no, that's like a couple of weeks and it's in place. So that's really surprising to me.
I think it's really cool. You can make so much progress so fast.
Well, also I've got like I'm not fine tuned, right? So like you adjust anything and it has a faster effect.
It does. I think that's like the beginner gains. Usually we associate that with just like weight on the bar. But there is that same idea that happens with technique as well. So long as you're willing to listen, like you're a really good learner, right? You're a really good student. So if I say cue, you're also, you have an experience in movements where we've been in sport in the past, but we're also a dancer. And I feel like dancers are some of the best learners. An interesting thing you had said about dancers is that they could see the movement and then maybe replicate the movement, but the technique is not necessarily correct. And you're probably going to say this better than me, but why does that work that way?
Well, because if you're in a dance studio, you're surrounded by mirrors, and like dancer superpowers, like they're really good with their own body. They're terrible with anything else. So weightlifting is actually not necessarily, it doesn't work super well. Dancers are shockingly strong for their size because their muscles are really long, but like they're the kind of people that will walk through a doorway and hit their shoulder on the threshold of the doorway because they're very confident with their own body and they just can't handle like another variable being entered in. That's not their world, right?
They're in open spaces.
Yeah. It's the difference between like a dancer and a juggler. Like a juggler is an expert at interacting with other things. While a dancer is like an expert at themselves. And so they see something and they go, okay, I need to replicate that exactly. But in the same way that we said, well, you can squat and do this, you can get to the same point many different ways. And that matters a lot when you're interacting with another prop, and that prop weighing 200 and something pounds. It matters a lot on how you're choosing to do that. When you're dancing, it's like, well, it's my body weight. Like all I've got to do is make it look the same as that person. Even if the person's not doing it the same way as I'm doing it, I can get away with it as long as visually it looks identical. So the visual part has been like, when you're like, oh, you're a good learner. Like, well, I'll ask you to, do it full speed. Let me see. I'll ask you to replicate the movement. And I think one of the things that you figured out with me is like, okay, if we start with really low weight where the movement can be at least replicated visually, then as we start increasing the weight, now we've got to actually figure out how do we manipulate the prop and like, what muscles are we actually activating to make that movement work? Because it could change. So for me, like I did gymnastics, I did martial arts, I was a juggler and I was a dancer. And so like I have got like some different modalities within that and the physical side, but I was never like a weight lifter, and I've always been a little envious of the people that are good at that.
Well, now it seems like you're getting pretty damn good. Like we're squatting 230, which is not a small. I don't know how much you weigh exactly, but like if that's how much do you weigh?
I'm 400 pounds of solid muscle.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you are the bodybuilder.
Yeah. I am Brian Shaw. No, I'm like 200 pounds, and but I have a fairly high body fat percentage, so it's not a lot of muscle.
I would like to see that percentage. Like I know we didn't end up doing a DEXA, but if we could have done a DEXA and had compared even this in such a short period of time, I think we would have seen a pretty significant difference. But you're squatting 230, which is 1 point whatever times your body weight already. That's pretty fucking great.
Yay.
Yeah, and you're also benching pretty well too. I can't remember what your actual number is off the top of my head, but you're benching really well. You're deadlifting really well. What were some things that you did not expect that either were pleasant surprises or not so pleasant?
Like deadlift, I've seen people do these like mixed grips things. Grip is going to be an ongoing problem for me, I can tell. But you're like, oh, try it. And to this day, that feels really uncomfortable right up until the moment that it's in the air. And then it's not even in my brain, which is really weird and counterintuitive. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it is what it is. And the truth is, if I was just doing it with like an overhand grip, it'd be a problem. And I would submit based off of my grip rather than based off of what I could actually do. In the past, I've used grips. I've used like these Cobra pieces of leather.
Okay, yeah, like gymnasts use.
Similar to gymnasts, but they're made for weightlifting. Huh. So they go around your wrist, and then they're basically a big piece of leather. They wrap once around it, and so it takes almost all the weight off of your grip. So I can be like, I'm focusing on the bigger muscle groups, but in so doing, like it's to my own detriment. What was the question? Other things that I was surprised by?
The things that you were either pleasantly surprised by or not so pleasantly surprised by.
The other people in the gym are a perpetual distraction to me.
Yeah, they are.
It's not a normal gym, it's a really weird place, and you have absolute freaks in there. And I mean that in the nicest way. But there's some mutants that are, they're gorgeous in the movement, in their physicality. They're just magnificent movie characters. But like yesterday, we were like between sets, I'm sitting there watching them, and they didn't take a break for like, I don't know how long. It looked like 15, 20 minutes, and they were going hard. And it was like, I think it was 6 people that were just going ham. Like, it was torturous. And I was watching it just being like, I can't get my head around this. And other times I'm just like, that is gorgeous. Whether it's, I'm not even referring to like, I'm attracted to that person. It's just spectacular how they look, man or woman. The redhead, spectacular female. That black guy yesterday, spectacular male. Like, they're just spectacular humans. So on one hand, that's inspiring. On the other hand, it's super intimidating.
Really?
My heart would have exploded had I done what they did yesterday. And just watching them, and I was just like, please stop. Like, this looks terribly hard. Like, it has to hurt.
It does hurt.
Oh man, brutal.
So much.
Brutal. Yeah, and so I'm very distracted by them, but also by like my curiosity around the psychology of why they're doing this stuff. So it's not it's a weird gym, and I think it's probably similar to, like, if I go to a normal gym, I feel like I fit in there in some regard. There's going to be somebody who's in worse shape than me and somebody who's in significantly better shape than me, and I'm somewhere in there. If I go to like Flex Lewis's gym, I am the small guy. But for some reason, I understand that craziness, and I also give them like, oh, that there's an out. I can go, that guy's on so much gear, because they're super bodybuilder people, that I'm like, he's on so much gear that he's just coming in here doing a crazy amount of reps and then like letting the nutrition and the hormones take care of the rest. But when it's just these people that they're not competing, some of them were competing, but they're just Adonises that are killing themselves and spending half their day doing it. That's been a hell of a distraction, and I don't know whether I'm like, I want to be like them, because I don't. Like, I want to look like them, but I don't want to be like them.
Why not?
Because I don't want to spend half my day in a gym.
Fair.
Like, torturing myself. It seems terrible.
I mean, you get to hang out with friends.
I get to hang out with friends without having to do that.
Well, if you put it like that.
I have other friends. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would love to, like, do a panel interview and just be like, liar, like, tell me the truth. Why are you doing this to yourself?
I find it so interesting. You find it so interesting.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I don't know. I guess it's an easy out if you go to a bodybuilding gym, I guess, right? Because everyone's on. I mean, assumed everyone's kind of on gear. Powerlifting gyms, I think, feel like the same as probably this does, but it's different, right? Because this is like the CrossFit. We're at a CrossFit gym, and they were doing it every minute on the minute for I think about 20 minutes, and so they're just moving from exercise to exercise to exercise. So you earn your rest. If you don't earn your rest within that minute, then you just move on to the next exercise, and they are painful without a doubt. But there's something attractive, like the feeling that you get doing that movement. Whenever you find it's so easy to find a flow state. I think so much easier than sitting at a computer and doing work, where it's just like, this is all I have to do right now. You're here, you're present, just you're hitting 10 calories and you're up. It's so simple. It's so clear. Your goals are dictated usually for you, right? A coach wrote a program for this person, and so they have to hit 10 calories on the rower, and then they have to hit double unders and lunges and handstand walks. And it's just, that's all I got to do. That's all I have to worry about, is being here, completing this thing, and then I'm done.
Yeah, but there's so many ways to do that aren't painful.
Like what?
So you could do that at a keyboard. You could be writing a book and getting into flow, right? And you know what? I'm just thinking out loud. Like, maybe the pain is what justifies the flow for them, because maybe their brain can't settle outside of that. Like, for me, I have heard flow described as trying to learn something that is very hard for you, but still achievable. So it's still within your range. If it's outside your range, you give up, you panic, you go into parasympathetic response. Is that right?
Para is relax.
Then not parasympathetic. So sympathetic?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
I think I'm right.
You probably are right, but that's a weird way of...
I could always be wrong.
Anyways, it seems like in their situation, maybe the fact that they are putting their body into such a level of stress, their brain can't focus on anything else. Maybe that's what's going on. But I've been thinking about this for a good 12 hours now.
I think it's crazy. I think it's so interesting. Would you ever want to be that like even if it's not half your day, like to voluntarily put yourself through a 20-minute EMOM every single day, and it's 20 minutes and you're done? Is that ever like attractive? Like the idea, like the fact that I can even do that?
I did the Disney half marathon thing in California, and that was like, hey, you get a medal at the end, and Disney makes it really cool, and you get to run to the backside of the park. Like I will do things that are unpleasant, but it looked like they were doing something that they had no cheerleaders, they had no medal, they had, if it was just 6 people, like it was a gang of people that were only beating themselves up. I don't see the incentive in it. And that's why I feel like I'm missing a variable. And the reason I'm like obsessing over it is I'm like, I don't get what's happening here. And you said something insightful yesterday where you're like, well, maybe this is addictive behavior, which might be the only really rational answer to it. But I even asked them, like I approached like 3 of them and I was like, what are you doing? And he tried, and like several of the answers were around, I've got a client, I'm doing this for them. Or I've got social media followers and they need to see it. And it was like, so they found a rationale where they were doing it for other people, which is most things that I want to do, I do for other people. But yeah, anyways, I'm still enamored by the whole thing, and I find it very confusing.
Do you do anything for yourself?
Nothing that I can. Do I do anything that's painful for myself? Sure, I guess I do. But I do a lot for myself. But the more inconvenient or large of a project, the higher likelihood that I'm going to put that off in exchange for something for somebody else.
I wonder why we do that. It's very common that we do that.
We're a herd, right? Like we're social creatures. I think that's the only reason we have morality, is because we're social. Like crocodiles don't have morality in their, or at least certainly doesn't appear that they do. But they don't. They have no social pact, right? So there's no like. If I came in here swinging a knife and I did that every day, either people are going to avoid me, so my breeding likelihood goes way down, or somebody's going to kill me to protect themselves. and again, my breeding likelihood goes way down. So like from an evolutionary standpoint, we end up with like morality from the fact that we're a pack animal. And so I think most of our stuff comes from other people and the social pressures there. Our credit score matters.
Does it? Yeah, I don't know. I can't get over the fact that you find it so interesting. And I want to know I don't know that anything's necessarily missing. I think but you got really into fitness early on, right?
What do you mean?
Like I would consider dancing to be in the fitness realm. I would consider MMA or any sort of mixed martial arts in the world of fitness. It's just a different.
And I can tell you the motivation for those.
What was the motivation?
So like martial arts, I was a kid that felt very insignificant and insecure. So that was all about, can I protect myself? And to a more selfish level, like if I wanted to, could I inflict pain on somebody else if I needed to? Like it was about feeling secure. Dance was also about feeling secure, but it had a lot more to do with like sexual control, right? Like it was. By the way, if you're young and like want to hang out with a lot of hot women, dance is the place to go. You end up being surrounded by girls and it's great.
Very, very close. You're just dancing and having a good time.
Oh yeah, and as
chances go way up.
Yeah, so as you increase in that game, it's like you end up getting booked to do like shows at places, and there's like one dressing room, and there's like 3 boys in a room with like 20 girls that are changing. And you're like, I'm living the life. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
And they wanted me to play football.
Yeah. So dance had that going on. Like gymnastics probably had the least of it, but it was at least like a skill in the same way that like juggling was like, there's a challenge here. And I think that there's probably something to the weightlifting world in that, less in the bodybuilding world. But like I can see saying like, you know, I want 3 plates on here rather than 2. Like I could see wanting that. And it's like, what is it going to take to get to that? I can totally get that. I can totally understand how you can go there. I think it's much harder when it's just like, I wish this bicep matched this bicep more. Like
that's a weird one.
That's hard.
Yeah. That's a really hard one. I like the idea behind technique. I mean, obviously I'm biased. It's not fair. I feel like I shouldn't give my opinion about it so much.
Yeah, your opinion's invalid on your own podcast.
Yeah. Well, good point. It's supposed to be about like you and your experience, right? And so, but I'm innately biased. Like I really enjoy the technique aspect of it. I like that it's like something that's routine, that's ultimately healthy for me. It keeps me out of doing other shit that I might do otherwise. I might be drinking more often. I might select that over the workout, and the workout's harder. But this is still hard. It's just hard the next day. It's hard on the rest of my life, my body. This is hard in the moment, but I know like when I'm 60 years old, or I feel confident when I'm 60 years old, so long as I do this really well, my bone structure will stay good for the rest of my life. And like, that to me is a sense of peace. So yes, it's hard in the moment, but there's still like, at least I can sleep good, you know, versus the other one. I can't live that life anymore. So I don't know. There's a technique part of it. And there's also the chase of the number, which I don't know is always necessarily the best thing in the world. I want to it's the same thing as chasing a number on a scale, right? I just want to drop a certain amount of weight. It's like, well, what if you just like weighed the same, but looked different? Like, that is probably a huge pro, right? Like that's really what you're wanting. You're not wanting just the number to drop. You want to look and feel different. So that can be accomplished with just, you know, body recomposition with using the appropriate techniques. So I like the idea of chasing a number sometimes, but getting attached to the number I don't think is always the healthiest thing either.
Yeah, I think going after the finish line, this gets more into philosophy, which is what we talk about while we work out.
It seems to go that way pretty much all the time.
Yeah. But like, yeah, chasing a finish line sucks because when you cross the finish line, you get like a momentary thing of yay, dopamine bliss, and then like, and now what? And then you're stuck. I think chasing that is always a problem. I see it in this podcast studio all the time. People chasing I want this many followers. I want this much in revenue from sponsors. I want whatever. Yeah. Most of it comes back down to like, I want to feel significant at some level, whether that's financial significance or like that the show's good enough or whatever. And it's just like, you're just chasing something that's outside. The ones that do really well are like, I really enjoy doing this. I'm going to keep doing this because I enjoy that. And maybe my fascination with these athletes is I'm like, if I can figure out how they do that, if I can figure out how they get addicted to something that's positive, like I want to be able to know. I would pay so much to be able to shift like what I want to eat, who I find attractive. Like there's so many things in my brain that I'm like, that's not good. like I like the wrong girls. I know that. I am fully aware of that. I admit it. But I don't know how to fix it. And I've gone to many professionals that have claimed, I know how to fix it. I can fix it for you. No, they can't. I'm calling their bluff at this point because it's been like 4 or 5 at this point. And then the same, like in the nutrition world, it's like, oh, you can make Brussels sprouts taste good. It's like, well, come on. They have a texture, they have a taste. For some people, they fall in love with that. But I've tried things. Have you ever heard of the potato diet?
No.
So the potato diet, old school thing.
Okay.
Old school thing, where people would only eat potatoes for whatever, a month, right? So the rules are you can cook it kind of any way you want, but no additives. So like you want mashed potatoes, have that. You want baked potato, have that. But you're not putting butter, you're not putting salt. None of that goes on there. And apparently potatoes are like somehow balanced enough where you can live on them.
Interesting.
But then after you live on them for long enough, like all your taste buds reset, your brain resets. So then you like taste corn and you're like, that is the sweetest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And so as long as you don't introduce like really high sweet things that push corn out, and then you're like, oh, corn's bland. So a lot of people, I've heard people reset their taste buds. I tried it. It didn't work.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It worked for Penn Jillette. Yeah. I don't know if you know Penn and Teller.
Yeah, those guys here.
Yeah. So Penn used to be like huge.
Really?
And he lost a ton of weight. A guy named Ray Cronise, this NASA engineer guy, decided to figure out like weight loss. And so and he's like, oh, the potato thing. We're doing the potato thing, and it worked for Penn.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did the elimination diet, and when I got back to using like their drugs, because they kind of are. When I started eating like a sweet corn or butter, it changed my I was like, oh wow, like these are so loud. The flavors are so vibrant, and then it kind of died off, and then now I can just drink anything and be fine. But there's definitely. Even a fast, I think, will do that for me. If I do a 7-day fast, I come back and introduce food. I'm like, wow, like that. There's a lot going on inside of my mouth right now, and it's kind of wild.
Yeah, there's this race. So in video production, my world, people will back in the day when you were listening to TV or something, and the commercial would come on. Would you notice the commercial was louder than the TV show?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So they were trying to get people's attention, and so then the TV show would raise their volume, and then the commercial would raise their volume.
What a shitty.
And this continued, right? And then it transitioned into faster takes. So there used to be like, they'd call them oneers, where how long could you in one shot take all the content in, right? Which is really hard from a cinematography standpoint. However, for holding people's attention, making the clips shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until like now they're like less than 2 seconds on average. It's wild how fast they are. Wow. So now people are doing a thing where there's vibrant wars. They're turning up the color, the saturation on the color of things. So like this backdrop is super vibrant.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably not even that annoying, but if you went back like 100 years, people would look at that and be like, what are you like? whoa, too much. And so, but the same is happening, I think, in our nutrition. It's just like, how sweet can I make it? Because if I can't, I have to make this sweeter than soda, to make this stand out. And soda's pretty damn sweet.
Huh. Everything just gets louder and louder. At what point does it stop? Like
it doesn't. And so we got to figure out, like, we have to reset and then say, I'm not going to let the overstimulating, like porn. I'm not going to let porn overstimulate me so that sex isn't great. Like there's a huge movement within the manosphere of like, anti-porn and stuff, and they do that for that reason. It's not because they think it's immoral. It's because they think it's actually bad for them. Too much dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we got to draw a line somewhere and say like, I'm going to stay within this box. And maybe those old philosophies, like those religions that are like, don't drink and no sex before marriage and all these things they were putting in place. Maybe there's some wisdom there that whether it was by chance, an accident, or by design, that would be great if we could implement now.
I wish I knew what the design. If that was design, I wonder what the opposite was. What they were fighting against. I guess what was the overstimulating thing at that point?
Pork.
Pork, yeah, right.
That's in the Bible.
It tastes too good. Too fatty.
Sorry, man. Stay away from pork. So good. I mean, I would guess that pork was probably like they probably wrote that one off because it had more more. What are the parasites, worms and stuff. I think that's probably what was going on. I think the same thing with like you were okay eating fish but no like lobster or crabs. I think that had to do with like those were on the ground of the sea, so they're likely to have worse content in them.
More likely to just be dirty.
Yeah.
What are some movements that you either love or hate in the gym? So far.
I mean, so far I really like we've only recently started touching upon these. It's not a jerk. We're doing a clean. Is that what we're doing?
We're doing a hang clean plus the steps to it's a push press is what we're doing right now, and the goal will move into a clean and jerk entirely. But we're doing a hang clean, which we did yesterday, and then the push press.
Yeah. So I only recently we started playing with these dynamic movements. I don't know if I'm going to love them or hate them. I think in some ways they remind me of like the gymnastics or juggling thing where you're like manipulating the prop, which I know is probably not the right terminology, but that's kind of how I think of it in my head.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me. On one end, I'm like, cool, manipulation, timing, all that stuff is fun. On the other hand, I'm like, I could probably be getting stronger if I wasn't thinking about the dynamics of this. So if I was doing... But also I think I'd get bored. I don't know how you did it, but like squat, bench press, and deadlift, like if that's the whole world, that is a very small world. And you have a lot of like different, like, okay, we're gonna do it this way, we're gonna do it this way. I mean, I'm always shocked at how many variations and combinations when it comes to just those three. But I could see getting bored of that or wondering like, am I neglecting something? Like, up until yesterday, I had not done any presses with my shoulder. Oh, that's not true. But very few pressing movements with my shoulders. And so I wonder if there's like, am I losing areas of my body that I normally would have worked out? Like, I don't think I've done, besides like a hand exercise, like there's been no rows, right? So like, have I been neglecting my back? But then you do a bench press and all that gets activated when you're doing it right. And it's like, well, maybe I haven't been. I don't know. I don't have the experience or knowledge.
Fair. Interesting answer.
Look at that. I left you blank.
You kind of did.
That's the worst, man. When you're on mic and people are listening and you're like, not sure where to take it from there.
It's just, I mean, I kind of do, but I don't. There's so many different ways, I guess, to go is my problem. So I think I like the dynamic part of, what are we at?
We're okay.
Okay. I like the dynamic part of the movements. There are only so many variations for the squat, bench, deadlift. We haven't even seen that really very many of them, to be honest with you. Like, we've done a couple of them. Are we neglecting things? 100%. We're gonna neglect things to some. You can't work on everything all the time, and so whenever we look at a specific program, we're looking to solve a specific issue. Maybe it's just technique, and we just want to get good at the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, because we want to earn the right to be able to do a pause bench, a pause squat, a pause deadlift. But if your form sucks under regular repetition, then I'm putting you under a timed load. Is only going to increase risk for injury.
When you say a paused deadlift, do you mean I'm pausing at the top? Is that what happened?
No, you pause as soon as you get off the floor. So as soon as the bar or the weight leaves the ground, you'll stop like right at your mid shin, and then you go ahead and execute the movement from there.
And so for a pause bench, does that mean the bar stays at the top, or does it come down a little bit and is held?
Good question. So the bar ends up staying on our bottom position.
Oh, okay.
You can definitely like work on different like. I don't know that I would use like a pin press, more of an idea, but a pin press is where I like set my pins at a certain height. So whenever my safety bar, I stop at a certain point, right? And so I would use that for different like situations where maybe I'm really, really like bad at the transition from my tricep to, or my chest dominant portion to the lower half to like the top half. I can use what are called like bench blocks to help with those like specific ranges. for a pause bench, I just want to increase, like, do I know how to drive my legs the entire duration of that pause? Am I really knowing how to do that? Or have I just kind of been pretending when I'm like doing my regular bench press? And you'll fucking know. Like, if you can maintain a really nice arch and, you know, some good activation of your lats, and like the entire time you're just holding that isometric position, it's really fucking terrible to only use your arms. So you have to engage your legs. And then your back's engaged. I mean, everything's like in just this, you're like a tight rubber band. And then all of a sudden, when we say pressed, you release. So we build a lot of kinetic force at the very bottom, and then we, you know, explode. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a lot of different options, but it is, I guess it can get boring for some people, and I think I got bored of it for a little while, and that's always my fear as a trainer. Like, okay, yes, I did this for 10 years of just these movements. All the time, every day, or 3 times a week, 4 times a week. At what point, because most of my clients aren't going to be as into this as me, and some of them will and some of them aren't, but at what point is there a drop off, and how do I continue to create value for this person? And so how do we continue to create value for you moving forward? Have you gotten bored of those movements?
I mean, I don't want to lose what I've learned, although from the technique side, I don't think I would, but from the strength side, I definitely could. And then there's certain pieces of technique that I don't think I've learned yet. Like, I would guess that there's very strategic techniques around breathing within this. Yeah. We've never played with that. You've talked about it. You've been like, breathe, don't pass out on me while you're lifting weight. But we've never like really talked in depth about that. Like if I go shooting and we're doing like precision long range, like, boy, we're looking at like heartbeat and like where that plays into the breath and like all of these little things that can throw off the slightest movement. And something tells me that some of this kind of plays into the weightlifting game of it. So I think there's more to learn there. And I think as long as I could go like, okay, I'm learning more technique strategy. I think I would always, as long as I could keep adding pieces there, I think I would never be bored with the movement. But then if I were to be bored with the movement, I think I'd still want to do the movement only to maintain where I'm at. I wouldn't want to lose progress, although we all lose it in the end. But
sure, it only takes 10 days for you to lose.
Oh, really?
Strength. Yeah, you start like degrading after 10 days. It's pretty wild.
That's awful.
I can't believe we haven't talked about breathing.
I don't think. Besides, like you've said, like breathe. Like you've literally told me to breathe before, but I don't think we've actually like. And I think I've found points where I'm like, okay, that's useful right there. Like for me, if I'm doing a squat, like I find that right before I go down, if I breathe and kind of hold my breath, it almost seems like I'm filling up my core. Yeah. To a point where it's like, it's harder for it to collapse because it's more full.
This makes me honestly a little sad. I'm disappointed that I failed you.
Didn't fail me.
A little bit. I can't believe I haven't talked to you about Valsalva maneuvers, which is exactly what you're doing.
No idea what we're talking about.
That's what it's called. When you're breathing into your diaphragm and having a diaphragmatic breath, it is called a Valsalva maneuver. And it does create more structure around the spine. So whenever we're under load, we're breathing aggressively into our belly, and we're not breathing into our chest. So most often people will breathe up into their thoracic cavity, and then we should ideally, especially under load, and almost all the time really, be breathing into our diaphragm. And so it creates a lot of pressure, increases heart rate or heart blood pressure pretty aggressively as well, but it creates stability inside the core, so it reduces risk of injury.
Why do they call it Valsalva?
I don't know. Okay. Some guy probably. Yeah. I assume. Yeah, I don't know. We're coming up on time.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay. So what are some things that you would like to see moving forward, and then some highlights and lowlights? Just some quick, like one item per, I guess.
I don't like that I could lose my strength in 10 days. That doesn't make me feel great at all. Some lowlights and highlights of what I want to
see moving forward. Either personally with a program or from me.
So I'm actually excited about at least playing with the dynamic movements. I'm a little frustrated at what I saw with that group class, and I kind of want to just do what they did because I'm mad at them. In the same way that when we did the very first workout, I pushed a sled and I almost died. Yeah. And it was very little compared to what I can do now pushing a sled. But it was like, and you're like, well, I'm going to push a sled. I was like, there was no way I was not going to push a sled today because I'm so angry at the damn sled. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, I kind of just want to like, okay, let's set up a rower. Let's set up some weights. Let's handstand thing over here. Like, I'm almost just like, I need to do what they did, even to the point of me tapping out just because I'm like pissed about it, about what I watched.
We can.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Yeah, I know I'm not trying to be those people. There's certain things that get in my brain, rumination, and I'm just like, I need to attack that thing. I don't feel like I need to attack squats, which is amazing because I was so concerned when I started that squats were going to be really scary. I just didn't want to hurt myself, and I feel. Don't get me wrong, like yesterday and the workout before that, both of those have been like, man, I'm really glad there's a spotter here. Scary, dangerous, but I feel fine about those movements, and yeah, I'm excited to try and play with other ones, and I really wish I had greater endurance, both like strength endurance, but like cardiovascular too. When I say strength endurance, it's like I'll do 4 squats and I'm like, okay, I need to sit down for like 2 minutes. Yeah. You know, like I don't have the ability to. And then if somebody were to be like, I'm going to chase you and mug you, I'd be like, well, you're gonna win. Like I got no defense at this moment. So I don't know how you fix those things. Maybe it's just continually doing it, but those are definitely holes in my physiology.
Cool. So building up work capacity, both cardiovascularly and muscularly. Sounds like
it doesn't sound fun at all. I'm really not looking forward to that process. I hate where I'm at right now in that world.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate yours. Yeah. I do get a lot out of those sessions. Even when I'm not looking forward to doing them, I get a lot out of them.
Good. I'm glad to hear. Cheers. Thank you all. Love you. Bye.